What up, everybody? It's your girl Sherry's Joy, and you are listening or watching another episode of Bookmarked. Again, I'm your host, Sherry's Joy, and I read another book. This week's book is Last Patient of the Night by Gary Galacher. Forgive me for mispronunciation. Not good with names. So this book I read on my Kindle, and I actually don't know much about the author or anything at all about the author. I actually came across this book because I am an Amazon Prime subscriber, and I as an Amazon Prime holder, you get you are able to borrow a certain amount of books at a time from Prime Reading. And so this popped up, and it actually stood out to me because it's an ER doctor. I love ER. I love doctor shows, hospital shows, and this is actually my first, so why not give a hospital book a try. So this is my actual first book that I've read that takes place in a hospital and that is based on the hospital. And I gotta say, I was a little bit disappointed. I mean, the book is described as one thing, but as I read it, it was something completely different. So this book absolutely has pretty much, I would say, only 10% to do with the hospital. It just so happens that this doctor, the main character, his name is Dr. A.J. Docker. They call him Doc. He prefers to be called Doc. It starts off where he's in, it takes place in Houston, and it starts off he's in the mountains, or he's at a ski thing, and he's trying to like decompress. And he's on the top of this mountain, and then this guy comes. He's from this tourist comes from like Oklahoma or something like that, and he wants to, go down the ski mountain thing first because it's fresh powder, and he's never skied on fresh powder before or at all. And so the doctor's like, please, the honor is all mine. And so the author, he takes you in, he grabs me, right? He grabbed me. We're like whooshing through the ski thing and whatever it's called, the mountain thing. And obviously I don't ski. And he's going down, and he's like explaining, and he's like, whoo, 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 whoo. And then boom, he crashes into a tree. And so the doctor's like, all right, here we go. Like before he even crashed into the tree, he brings out his phone, and he's like, yep, this is Dr. A.J. Docker. I'm going to need a helicopter and this, that, and the fifth and the third. And then he's like, all right, let's go. And he's like, right. And I was like, obviously I'm not watching the book, but I'm reading it, and it's like very descriptive, and I can like see, all I can see is just them just going, right? And then he's turning and turning and turning. And so anyway, so he gets down there, and the dude, he's like messed up. So he has to perform his first emergency on location. So he has to like do what is it called? A tracheotomy, where he takes the thing, and he's like breathing, and he's like, and he starts breathing, and the doctor's talking to him, and he's like, okay, before you freak out, you have a stent in your throat, and this, that, and the third. And he's like, he tries to freak out. He's like, nope, don't talk. So anyway, so he gets him on the helicopter thing, and then the medics come, and then he starts flirting with like the chick medic, and it's like, all right, so he's like Mr. Macho Dr. Cool. And then we go to the hospital, like it like flash forwards, like his vacation's over, he goes to the hospital, and he's like Doc Awesome, right? And he's like really cool with the patients and really cool with like the staff, and he's like that awesome doctor with all the suave and the swag and just smooth talker and all that. And he goes through his day, and we meet a couple of patients, and then we meet the last patient, who is super weird. She's very, very odd acting, and we can tell that she's been abused, maybe probably, not, I won't say probably, but possibly domestically. So he brings in Tom, which is the police officer that works in the ER, and, you know, Tom's talking to him, and Tom has his assistant, whose name is Banshee, and Banshee is a police dog, and, she's talking to the dog and like, just weird, like, you can protect me and you're a good dog and all this other stuff. So then, you know, she's discharged and the night is done. And then the next day, or at some point, she's dropped back off at the hospital. Like, you hear like the doctor's coming out of the hospital and you hear this car like coming from far, and then the door opens and then she's shoved out, and then it's like all havoc, right? Which is like, I'm like into it, right? Because I can see it happening, because I told you I like ER and Grey's Anatomy and stuff like that. And so you see this happening, and then you're following it, and then it's like this action, and she dies. And it's like, okay. So from there, the doctor wants to find out, like, who is this patient? Who is she? Her name doesn't match with the records, and all these things are happening. So he's determined to find out who she is. So that's pretty much about as hospital as we get. I mean, we do meet maybe one or two more patients, but it's like nothing. It's just kind of in passing. And so the book from there is about Doc trying to figure out who this last patient is. And we find out her name is Jenny. And, you know, she actually works in a Ukrainian gentleman's club. And there's... It's ran by like mobsters, and it's kind of like an underground type of place, sorta, kinda. You get the vibe that it doesn't really specify, right? You don't really, you have to kind of read between the lines here, in which I don't like that. But you kind of get the vibe that this is the kind of place where like you go, you pay money, you get anything you want, which is not my thing. But I think it's trash. And so it doesn't really elaborate on that, but we kind of get the idea that like the guy in charge is like this big, his name is Diavala, which means devil in Ukrainian. And he's like this big 300 pound, 6 feet 4 guy, and he don't play. He's like a mob boss type thing, and he's also in charge. And so he definitely assaults his staff, the women, the lady dancers, and they're all terrified of him. They're like afraid of him. They want to leave, but they're like scared. They're scared too. You know, we go into that, and then still Doc wants to find out what's going on. So he's like investigating. He takes it upon himself to investigate. And the actual cops that are, you know, that come to the hospital to investigate Jenny's death, or I'm sorry, unalived on purpose, death, you know, they're a team, Lenny and Jane, they call them Skinny Jeans, and they're like investigating, and it's just all over the place. So the doctor kind of like, he wants to know. Now, I get it, like doctors are compassionate, and some of them, most of them, the ones that I know of, are compassionate and friendly, and they really care about their patients. And I can understand, like, he really, you know, but it's like, let the police do their work. Then I guess we wouldn't have a book. So it's just, it's him and Tom. Oh, they just, you know, try to figure this out. And then what does this all come down to? This all comes down to just what's the word? Framing people. They're not framing, blackmailing people, because this gentleman's club, like I said, anything goes, right? So they do escorts and stuff like that. So they record these encounters. The ladies record these encounters, and they blackmail these corporate people, these big shots. They blackmail them and say, you know what, I got you, you're married, this is your family, I know who you are, I have this on video, it's all on tape, it's on film, it's on, you know, audio, what have you, and we will be quiet but we need something in return. We need like, I don't know, $1 million, and we won't release this to anybody. So they're like blackmailing and blackmailing these corporate people, these people of like renown. And, you know, it's like, why? You know? And on top of that, it's got everything to do with Bitcoin. So they want all of this money, and it's all about like Bitcoin and just making more money off of that. It's like billions of dollars they have blackmailed from multiple people, and they're keeping like books, like, I'm sorry, like actual books, as if this is like the 20s, okay? Like we're at some speakeasy, books of just like these customers. So that's what it's about. And then Doc, he has this annoying neighbor named Carl who's like the busybody, and he's like, you know, he's your neighbor where every time you go outside, he's like outside. I don't know, it's like he walks out of the door and he's like trimming trees. He walks out of the house another time and he's like taking out the garbage. He's like, hey Doc, how you doing today? You're off schedule today. And he's like, yeah, I'm good, Carl. You know, so actually Carl is my favorite character because he actually ends up being the hero mid-book, maybe 30% in. That's not mid-book, so maybe like a quarter of the way in, he becomes a hero. There's like this street fight where the mob guys are like coming, and they're like, well, actually they're in this white van, cliche. They're in this white van and they jump out and they have like these machine guns in the middle of like this suburban neighborhood, bright as day, early morning. They have these machine guns in this white van, and they expect nobody to kind of like think that it's suspicious. So Carl sees what's going on, and he like takes the reins, and he's like helping, and he puts them down. It's like, whoa, Carl, where'd that come from? So it's a secret that Carl used to be in the military, and he got like a Medal of Honor and some other like things. And he doesn't want anybody to know. He pretty much keeps it low key, but he's a busybody in the neighborhood because he's like always watching, so he knows when something's like off kilter, which actually ended up being a good thing. And then that's like all we hear from Carl. That's kind of like it. He's my favorite character, and that's kind of like all we hear. And then towards the I would say the height of the book, there's like this scene where Doc is trying to like get to the bottom of everything, right? So he's with the mob boss, and they're like stuck. He's trying to find these books, and he's like goes underground, and you know, he's in like these underground tunnels that lead from the club to like the warehouse next door that looks abandoned. And so he goes under there, and then his goons, right? Not Doc's goons, but the mob's goons, they're like looking for him, and he's like hiding, and he hides in the he goes into the kitchen and he hides in the oven. Shout out Preach and Deep Blue Sea. So he's like in the oven, and the soot is coming down on him, and he's trying not to sneeze, and then he gets out, and then he runs, and he gets caught. And then they take him into like this steel-proof room, and you're kind of like, I'm reading it, and I'm just like, oh no. And then so he meets with the mob boss. The mob boss is like, you know what Ukrainian manicure is? And the Doc is like, no, with his sarcastic ways. He's very sarcastic. He's like, no, but I'm guessing I'm gonna find out. So it's like, I take knuckle, and I take a chisel and a hammer, and I pound and pound and pound and da-da-da until your knuckles are gone. And then I move to your finger knuckles, and, you know, and I remove your fingers or something like that. So it's like, I was like on the edge of my seat for that, because it's like, oh, like, it was just the way it was described was like crazy. And so, you know, that happens. And well, that scene, and I'm not doing any spoilers, trust me. And, you know, and then at the end of the day, or at the end of the book, we find out a whole bunch of things. And then, you know, on the side, there is some embezzlement happening in the hospital. And that's with like the vice president of the hospital. So it's like, what else? So yeah, so this was a very short book. It was about 200 and I don't know, 35 or 40 pages, and I read it in a couple of days. It kept me entertained at night. When I was reading it at night. I read it mostly at night, and it did keep me on the edge of my seat at some places. Some places I kind of was like, ugh. And then there were a lot of quips. I'm telling you, a lot of quips, a lot of sarcasm, a lot of like comedy in the middle of this like crime book, I guess you could say. So it is a series. This is the first book of the series, and from what I have looked at and researched, it looks like the series is about the police dog, or at least the police dog is in the book of the series. So I don't know if I'll read the second book, but if I do, I will definitely talk about it. And last patient of the night. So I'm glad I was able to read it. If crime books are your thing with twists of comedy and sarcasm and some suaveness, check out this book. I actually rated it a 3. I didn't want to, but I do. I rated it a 3, and that's just because it's short. It led me to believe that it had everything to do with like hospital. I thought I was going to read a thriller about something in the hospital, right? It led me to believe that, and it didn't. And I do recommend it, if that's your thing. It's not really mine, so that's why I rated it a 3. I did like the writing. The writer was great. The chapters were short. They kept I kept the pages turning. It kept me entertained. It just wasn't my thing. So yeah. If you have any suggestions on anything that you would like for me to read, or if there's a good book that you think that I would like, please let me know. I'm up to anything. I'm open to suggestions. If you have any comments or questions for me, please shout me out in the comments below. Thank you all so much for your support and your likes and your subscribes. I do appreciate all of the views. I appreciate all of you. I am Sherry's Joy. I am half of the DigiKast, and you can find me on Instagram at bookmarkedsj. I am on Blue Sky. You just search for Sherry's Joy on Blue Sky. You can find the DigiKast here on this channel, so please like and subscribe this video, or please like this video and subscribe to this channel. You can find the DigiKast on Facebook. We are on Spotify. We are on Instagram. We have a blog, TheDigiKast.substack.com. And if you think anyone can benefit from this video or any of the book reviews that I do or any of our videos, please share the video, share the channel, and let everybody know. Also, please look for my tea and chocolate video that is under the DigiKast. And also, we just recently went to the chocolate festival in Washington, D.C. at the French Embassy, and we tried chocolate. It was such a good time. So check that out as well, and look for more things to come in the summer. We do Vacation on a Budget, and we do local things in the DMV area, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. So look for those. Again, I'm Sherry's Joy. Thank you so much for your support. Love the world.